is seen as the hanging man, exactly as shown on the tarot card, called the Hanging Man. Aleister Crowley, the beast himself, had this to say about the Hanging Man tarot card. He said this card is attributed to the letter Mem. It represents the element of water. It would perhaps be better to say that it represents the spiritual function of water in the economy of initiation. It's a baptism, which is also a death. In the Aeon of Osiris, this card represented the supreme formula of adeptship. For the figure of the drowned or hanged man has its own special meaning. The legs are crossed, so that the right leg forms a right angle with the left leg, and the arms are stretched out at an angle of 60 degrees so as to form an equilateral triangle. This gives the symbol of the triangle surmounted by the cross, which represents the descent of the light into darkness in order to redeem it. For this reason, there are green discs, the color of Venus, and favorite color of Satan. By the way, he disguised himself in the Garden of Eden, in the greenery, hiding from Eve, in the green foliage. The green discs signifies grace at the terminations of the limbs and of the head. The air above the surface of the water is also green, infiltrated by rays of the white light of Kether. The whole figure is suspended from the Ankh, another way of figuring the formula of the rose and the cross, while all around the left foot is the serpent, the creator, destroyer, who operates all change. Now you know who's changing our world. It's interesting that there's an apparent increase of darkness and solidity in proportion as the redeeming element manifests itself, but the color of green is the color of Venus, of the hope that lies in love. That depends upon the formulation of the rose and the cross, of course, of the annihilation of the self in the beloved, the condition of progress of man. The hanged man is an invention of the adepts of the INRI, which translates to English as Jesus the Nazarene, King of the Jews. Also the JAO formula. JAO, of course, is the Greek name for the god of the Gnostics, Laldabaoth, known as the drowned man, the pre-Osirian religion of Isis, and that all birth was considered an emanation without male intervention of the mother or star goddess. In other words, immaculately conceived. And all deaths were a return to her, not him, her, the goddess. That's why we're going through this huge movement of goddess worship at this very moment now. Take, for example, the crowning point of this year so far around Walpurgisnacht and Beltane, which is the May Queen festival, the sexual festival of seeding. The green man shows up with the May Queen and is ritually killed by the handmaidens, as his lust for the May Queen is too much and he attacks her. And the maidens, the handmaidens that protect the May Queen, kill the green man. Feeling sorry for the dead green man, the May Queen revives him and brings him back to life. In other words, gives man life. Do you see? in the spring, the woman is calling the shots. Just as the April 29th wedding, the royal wedding, Catherine was calling the shots. She didn't say she would obey the future king of the British Empire. No, it was all about her, and not Prince William at all. It was about her day, her dress. The power of the goddess. This is all working toward the power of Mary Magdalene, the goddess of goddesses, the one who fleshly bore the Merovingian bloodline coming from the house of David, or Jesus Christ. So you see, the goddess giving birth without male intervention, as Isis was to have. This explains the original attribution of the Atu to water, because you see, all of us start in the womb, surrounded by water, and the sound M, the return to eternal silence, as in the word Om. Om is a holy meditation symbol of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. It's therefore specially sacred to the mystic. And what's now used at the yoga position is a ritual posture and a practice called the sleep of Shalom. The Atu represents the sacrifice of a male child of perfect innocence and high intelligence. These words were chosen with the utmost care. The sacrifice of a male child of perfect innocence and high intelligence. The meaning of his attitude has already been described, and of the fact that he is hanged from an ankh. It's a cross with a looped top, an equivalent of the rosy cross. In some early cards, the gallows is a pylon or the branch of a tree, by shape suggesting the letter Daleth, Venus, love. The ankh, of course, is the ancient Egyptian mystery religion symbol for reincarnation. And as I pointed out in the May Day ritual, the Beltane ritual, that, by the way, was the evening of the wedding, the royal wedding. Walpurgisnacht into Beltane. Beltane was the day that Osama bin Laden was killed, and he was resurrected. He spoke from the grave in the tape. Forecast, by the way, here on A View from Space on AM 640. Wasn't much of a stretch, though, to think that there would be more from Osama bin Laden, and that his spirit reinvigorated the Taliban, reinvigorated Al-Qaeda. Spaceman, back with more in a moment on A View from Space on AM 640.
You're listening to A View from Space with the Spaceman, exercising the right to free speech while he still can on AM 640.
Spaceman, AM 640, and A View from Space. You can email two addresses, space@640toronto.com or spaceman@640toronto.com. RS writes, good evening, Space. I was wondering if you heard about Katya Koren, a 19-year-old girl who was reported missing a few weeks back but was found dead this week in the Ukraine. According to news reports, Katya was stoned to death. When I saw this on the news, I couldn't help but remind myself that you were talking about a possible blood sacrifice to take place this week on your previous show. I noticed how this story came out a day before the Endeavour landing. Coincidence, or was Katya the blood sacrifice for Shuttle Endeavour? All we have, because there will never be any proof, all we have is our own spirit, RS. And deep inside my spirit, I believe that there is not one very important piece of work being done by the Illuminati that does not require a blood sacrifice. I believe it's a constant flow of blood. That's what the red carpet really means. When the dignitaries walk on the red carpet, it's the blood that has been spilled so that they may have their way paved in it to the place where they do the signing, to the place where they do the speeches, to the place where they stand up to receive their awards. Everyone wants to walk on the red carpet, I'm told. I don't. I know what it stands for. No way I'm walking on sacrificed people's blood to exalt myself. Never. So the Atu represents the sacrifice of a male child of perfect innocence and high intelligence. And the fact that he is hanged from an ankh, an equivalent of the Rosy Cross. In some early cards, the gallows is a pylon, the branch, or a branch of a tree, suggesting Venus. Love. Love for their goddess. Crowley, Aleister Crowley, the now deceased head warlock of all of Europe, as usual, has some fascinating insights into the meaning of this card. He brings up associations with water and baptism, death and rebirth, sacrifice of innocence. Venus, the goddess, and the origin of the sound of the letter M, maybe double M. All these themes can find themselves in many movies, including this one called The Brothers Grimm, in which Heath Ledger starred. Do you think it's still just a coincidence? The next scene I'd like to refer to is of Heath Ledger and Damon, who are in this shot, this scene, with the cross and the Bible. Matt Damon. Directly above their heads is the cross and the Bible. They are about to defraud the poor villagers out of some cash by taking advantage of old legends and myths about a witch. This would have been viewed as highly heretical behavior by the Christian authorities, and it would usually result in the perpetrators being asked the question under torture until they confessed that they were witches. In this film, though, a twist is put on this usual witchcraft plot. The two con men, Heath Ledger and Matt Damon, are in fact arrested by the enlightened and illuminated French general and forced to confess that they are in fact con men, and that there is no such thing as witchcraft, and that it's all trickery. Heath Ledger is then coerced into going on a mission to find 10 missing children who have gone missing in the forest of Marbaden, where the goddess resides.